Hello, humans, and welcome back to Those Two Geeks. He's Alex, I'm Joe, and today we're joined by the illustrious, industrious, and always wondrous Matthew Klein. And what that means is it's time for another jam session, and it's been way too long, gents. Thank you for allowing me to return.
I feel like it's not a case of allowing you to return. It's just here you are, and that's fantastic.
Well, I have returned.
Exactly. It's been a minute since I've spoken to both of you. In fairness,
It's been a hot minute. Yeah,
it has. I'd ask how you are, but I don't really care. No. But so how I feel like it's been a minute. There's been a bunch of stuff that we haven't talked about. A bunch of stuff we probably won't talk about because despite all of the wrestling stuff that's happening this weekend, I was actually more curious to ask about. I've been thinking about how Matthew, you are. Can I say where you work? I don't know if we can say where you work. I know you do it on Comics. Okay, I know you say on Comics for You, you work with Penguin Random House, but I wasn't sure if that was a case of just saying it there or not. So Matthew Klein, who has joined us today, who I'm sure all of you know, works at Penguin Random House, has a podcast, Comics for You, which is fantastic, and I urge you to listen to.
Unbelievable.
But my question, mainly for Matthew, is when you publish Crashing through IDW, how did that process work? Because I'm just getting right into this because I've been dying to ask you this for about a week and a half ever since the idea came to me. So I apologize for no preamble. But yeah, how did that process work from when you went from I'm writing the comic to I'm publishing through IDW versus trying to go through Penguin? Because I assume while Penguin does books, it's not a comics or graphic novel centric thing, right?
So, first of all, I am thrilled to be the M in the jam once again here, my friends. I don't know what the M stands for, though. Maybe I'm the mayonnaise in the sandwich, which sounds disgusting, but we'll see. So, first off,
Marmalade?
Thank you for that. Oh, there you go. Marmalade. Yes, I am just, I am the marmalade.
So what is a J? Anyway, this is
the jelly. That's fine. J can be the jelly, the M's the marmalade, and the A is the aioli. So it's perfect.
Tangent already.
I can just imagine how Alex is thinking, like, crap, how am I going to edit my spit take from this?
No, it's staying in there. It's staying in there.
No, this is the first time I think we've had a tangent asking a guest a question.
There you go.
No. When Matthew first came on, or the second podcast, I said, "Oh, hey, before we get going," and then we had a second episode all about wrestling before we even got a chance to talk about Crashing.
It's true. That was all my fault. So I do work for Penguin Random House. That is my day job, and so my disclaimer on Comics for You, and I'll give it here too, is any and everything I say is not as a representative and does not reflect Penguin Random House. I am speaking only as Matthew Klein, the private citizen. I don't know if I'm actually a private citizen, but it always sounds cool when people call themselves a private citizen. There we go. So, in terms of getting Crashing published, and thank you again for the fine compliment of the book. I'm very proud of it. What happened with Crashing was it began with the idea, and the way it worked essentially was I had hired an editor independently. This is what creator-owned books can do. Not every creator-owned project at an image or what have you hires an editor. I'm of the opinion it's always better to hire an editor, but sometimes budgets are budgets. So what I did is I had hired an editor, and we had gotten the project to the point where I had hired her for developing the pitch document, developing a script for one, and developing sample pages from the artist. So with that entails essentially the pitch document was going to be about a one-page document that's essentially the log line. It is a quick synopsis of it. It is then a paragraph giving you the setup, a paragraph giving you the middle and resolution, And then at the bottom of that, you provide how long is it going to be. Is this a mini series, an ongoing series, an original graphic novel? Who is the audience this is for? And what is the age rating essentially that you're looking to do? The log line is a simple 1 to maybe 2 sentences of, in Crashing's case, as I call something like, the medical drama of Grey's Anatomy meets the superheroics of, the social superheroics of the X-Men. And that's how you start it. So a 1-sentence pitch, a setup, a conclusion, who is your audience, what type of project are you pitching to the publisher. So basically, the first thing they'll do is they'll look at that and they'll go, oh, is this for us or is this not for us right off the bat? From there, you also provide another page to 2 pages of an outline, issue by issue. So you get really more in the weeds of what is the actual story and what are the beats and what is the character arc. So that document, we got that settled first. Then my editor and I, Heather Antos, I don't know why I'm just mysteriously calling them my editor. She's phenomenal. So my editor and I, Heather Antos, we went ahead then and from that, when we were happy with it, I went ahead and wrote a script for, I believe it was going to be 20 pages at that point. Just because that was sort of the standard at the time. I don't remember if it was 22. I think it was 20. So I wrote the script. So I was like, great. Apologies, didn't have a cough button there. So the script was all done. We went through like 2-3 drafts of the script. At that point, I had gone about hiring an artist. So I went ahead. I found Morgan Bean. I talked with Heather and we discussed who the colorist was going to be for the sample pages. I brought her a name of a letterer that she agreed on. Then I, as the project head, right? Because in a creator-owned project, whoever comes up with the project and starts hiring people, you are the one signing the contract, right? It is your job now to hire the team. So
That's cool.
It's not the editor's job. There's no publisher to do it. You are doing it yourself. So I went ahead and hired the rest of the team for the project. Now, what I did, and I based this off of conversations with Wonder Critic named Alex Segura, who's currently writing the ongoing Star Wars series at Marvel. So Alex has done a ton of creator-owned stuff, and he has done a lot of pitches that he has then taken to publishers. So he was very kind enough to give me a template of a contract, and I would just change everything so that reflected this project. But I offered ownership to Morgan. That was one of the carrots I used to, get her interested in the project. So we are co-owners of Crashing, media rights, everything.
Wow.
I also offered 10% ownership, if I recall correctly, to Heather. Now, that is something a lot of creators do not do. They do not offer a small ownership stake to the editor. I thought that Heather had done so much in contributing to the idea and to the IP and getting it off the ground that I absolutely wanted to give her a piece of it. So I did that.
Right.
For colorist and letterer, I offered residuals, net based off of net profits of the project, not gross. Some people do gross, some people do net. At that point, I was really only able to offer net, but I offered all of them. Morgan, Hassan Asmael, the Eisner Award-winning letterer, and then at that point, I think his name was Jeremy Lawton, did the colors for the sample pages. I offered page rates, right? And I tried to get reasonably comparable page rates so that they would have incentive to do it. Sometimes a creator can do that, sometimes they can't. And again, you're offering them other incentives along the way to get them to say yes to do these sample pages. So I paid everybody for the pages. I also offered Morgan money to do a promotional image, basically a sample cover image that has never been released and it's never been printed. It wasn't even on like a retailer exclusive variant, which there's still something to that. At some point, I may go back to IDW and say, listen, can we reprint this for X number 100 of copies and use this image? and use like a convention exclusive. So that was how we assembled the team, and that was from a contractual statement. Once everybody was signed on, Morgan got to work. We worked on character designs before any and everything else. We then got her going, and generally you do 5 or so sample pages for publishers. Publishers like to see around that much. If you look at open submissions to things like Dark Horse, or I think it was Vault at the time, we're talking like 2021. So they usually will list what they want from you. They'll give you a list. And so that's what I was basing this pitch packet off of. And it helped that I went to these creators, I went to Heather, and I had ideas of where this was going to go. Like I had in my brain, okay, I want to pitch to Dark Horse. I want to pitch to Vault. I want to pitch to IDW. Because they also then know that you're not just some dude who thinks your comic is going to be the greatest comic of all time, but you have no tether in reality of what it's going to take to get it actually made. So, and we've talked about that on my podcast, various artists and writers, of like, show that you've done your homework, show that you've looked at this like a business venture, and that people say yes to you. So I already knew where I wanted to go. So I was basing all the credentials and all the pitch packets on that as we were working on it. Now we're talking from like January. We're now in like May, I want to say, probably about 4 or 5 months later. And it to again, get your pitch document, the 1 page, the outline, get a script written, to get the team hired and contracts signed, to also now start working on the pages and the sample cover. So from there, and please interrupt me, stop me at any time if I'm rambling, if this is boring as hell.
No, you're not rambling, but I want to just make one point. Is no one going to talk about Alex's Dax fucking Harwood? What the hell happened? It's just, I've been listening, but that took me way out of it. That's it. Let's go back.
Wow. Alex killing it with stash this week.
Yeah, dude, serious.
So
I will give him that.
Yeah, briefly, at some point in the last month and a half, my wife and I were out, and there was a stray dog on the loose, and we're like, that looks like someone's pet, and there was a car following it, trying to get him in, and we asked if they needed help, and we had some chicken in the car because we'd gone to KFC but hadn't finished the meal. And one thing led to another, and I was able to get my hands on the dog as he came around to be bribed by chicken. And as I kind of crouched over his back, it was probably more of like a wolf size. Like it wasn't, when I crouched behind him, like his head was up here. So he wasn't like, he made a golden retriever look like a small dog. Like he was big, but thin. And we're trying to get him off the road. And he panicked and shook his head, and he caught me up here with his teeth, like because his mouth was open, he was yelping. That hurt, but thankfully, ironically enough, my ThoseTwoGeeks hat that I had on actually blunted the teeth from cutting anything. And then his owner goes to get his collar on, and he does it again, but this time he moves just enough, and his teeth come right down on my chin. So, puncture wounds, bleeding, blood everywhere. Thankfully, at the time, my beard caught the blood, so it didn't ruin my white t-shirt that I had on. Win-win. And ended up going to the hospital, and the guy's like, well, it's clearly bled a lot. He said, you should be fine. If it looks to get infected, come back, but I don't want to give you antibiotics if you don't need them, because I was like, no, I'd rather not take them for no reason, because I don't want to build up any kind of resistance. I had tetanus shot recently when, funnily enough, I don't know if you can see, I don't know the people on the camera would see it, but there's a circular scar on my hand. I don't know if you can see that. But I had a tetanus shot from when I got that fantastic circular scar with the 8 stitches that it required. And then I decided that after having shaved off my beard, just leaving the mustache, like, I don't hate this. So I've been rocking a mustache since.
Dude, I love it.
I'm gradually getting it long enough that I can twirl out. So when I get
you're gonna do the, oh my god,
when I get a new headshot at work, I'll have a big twisty.
You're gonna do like the Dick Dastardly?
Absolutely.
Wow, that's awesome.
But yeah, so folks, if you
Amazing.
you obviously can't see us because this is an on-camera show.
It's a
I
shame.
have
Alex is so camera ready right
yeah,
now.
I have a mustache.
He
I
is.
haven't had a mustache in years. Well, I've never had one before.
He's
Wow.
So back to Matthew's
Yes,
story.
back
I
to
think
Matthew.
that's where I was invested.
Facial hair aside, back to Matthew.
facial hair aside. So
Yeah.
so now at this point, life happens. Comics is a fascinating little ecosystem. Most people will jump from publisher to publisher at some point. It's an interesting thing. A lot of people do not have one job in comics. You move around. A lot of times, like in a sales and marketing job, it can be 1 to 3 years that you move around. Editorial, it can be a little longer than that. I'd say, a solid editor position could be 5 years. Some people, though, when you find a home, you're 10 years, 20 years. Sales and marketing tends to be the crew that really jump more than any other. So Heather had left Valiant, and in May, excuse me. And so as we're getting into the summer, we're getting the pages from Morgan, we're getting everything, and Heather was getting extremely excited about the project. And she was like, listen, I just came to IDW. They are looking for a project exactly like this. I described it to our EIC. He really wants to see it. And I was like, she asked, would you be okay if I submitted it? She's like, I know you had planned to submit it to Dark Horse first, but would you mind if we gave it a shot? And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Because that's the dream. The dream as a creator is that you get an editor on the inside of a publisher to want your project, to pitch, to believe in your project. That is 50 to 75% of the battle, is finding someone in the publisher that will do it. When you are cold pitching, if I go to Dark Horse and no one at Dark Horse knows me, for example, it's a lot riskier. It's a lot more stress, and there's a lot less guarantee. So Heather started pitching. Now, what that entails is, for some companies, they have different pitch processes. Sometimes it's strictly within editorial. So what that means is essentially they will circulate your pitch amongst the team. Sometimes the whole team will review at a monthly or bi-monthly or every 2 weeks meeting, where editors come in and they say, these are the pitches I'm excited about. Here's what we're seeing for it. Here's the potential. And then the room basically votes on it, right? And everybody, either some companies, you have read the pitch already. Generally, you're supposed to. Some come in a little cold and be impressed, and they go away and read it, and then we'll vote, maybe at the next meeting. From there, if it makes it out of the editorial bulletin, some companies will then loop in the sales and marketing team, and they'll have a separate meeting. Again, maybe monthly, maybe bi-monthly, and editors say, these are the creme de la creme of all the pitches that we really love. Now, here's how, sales marketing, you tell us, can you sell this book? Can we make money off of this book? Can we, at the very least, can we recoup what we're looking for? And keep in mind, now, when I say make money, you do it based on timelines. So you're creating a profit and loss document, or a P&L, essentially. Here's how much editorial has gone ahead and said, here's how much we're going to pay this creative team. Here's how much we're budgeting for covers. Sales marketing say, is this a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 in terms of what our efforts are going to be? Marketing will tell you how much messaging they think willing behind it. And that's all going to be a series of factors. A, how good the pitch is, but before you even get into the quality of the pitch, what is the genre, what age that the customer and reader you're aiming for? What is the format of this? Because it's a lot more money to put into an OGN right up front than a single issue comic. If you're releasing in single issue comics, you can make some of that money back along the way before you put it into a collection and recoup expenses that way. If you have an original graphic novel, you're paying a lot more up front because you're paying the whole book, but you get one marketing bite at the apple for it, right? So it's a whole different way of structuring how you're going to make money on. And then from there, So everybody's got to vote. You also have to look at your publishing schedule. Does this fill the same publishing need as another project we have coming up this year or next year? Or, is this a project that is covering a genre, a customer base, or it's a big enough creator that you can sell off of the name who's involved? That's another big factor in all this. So that becomes a question too of like, okay, we bump another project next year because this is in the zeitgeist of the subject matter or the genre. It's like, oh, we don't have a horror book this fall. We need one. This came across our lap. Awesome. Stuff like that. So they have to take all those factors into account. Then there, again, it's usually a voting system. And they will, and again, it's different for every publisher. I'm giving you sort of a generalized version here, but you vote on it, and if you get the votes, congratulations, you can now enter into negotiations with the creative team. That's what happened with IDW. So IDW, the stress, we were overwhelmed and thrilled. This was in October of 2021, as I recall, and that's when Morgan and myself entered contract negotiations through Heather with the team, with their legal team at IDW. And now we go back and forth. How much are the residuals going to be? What are we getting paid? What media rights look like, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes it's quick. Sometimes they give you one draft and you are very happy with it. Great. You sign it and you go. Sometimes one person on the creative team is holding out because they don't like something in the project, and so they are negotiating certain aspects of it. Sometimes both of you do. Sometimes, it happens that way. So Morgan and I were the first ones to get on board with this. We got our contract signed. And I think it was about the end of the year. If I remember, it was like December, right before Christmas.
Wow, what a great present.
Yeah, it was great. And let me be perfectly clear too. What I'm describing is a fast process in comics.
Wow.
So this is
so
is
involved.
Very much, it's incredibly involved. Alex, to you. And then it's incredibly involved. And again, this is the easy way. This is when everything goes right at every step of the process. That's how it took. So once we were signed on, then we could start planning, okay, what is Morgan's schedule going to be? Can we get the rest of the team on board? We couldn't get Jeremy. Jeremy removed himself. He no longer wanted to do coloring. He wanted to be an interior artist. So he took himself off the project. Haas said yes. We got him a rate. Because again, we have this part ownership, but we also are paying them, an actual advance, as they call it. Page rates are considered an advance in publishing according to the sales that they're going to make on it. So that's sort of how it all happened. I apologize. I went very deep dive.
No,
explaining all the
but I have a question.
Before you ask your question,
yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Because this ties back to what you were just talking about. You mentioned Heather was you gave her part ownership in the early contracts. Do you know how she approached pitching it to IDW whilst being a resident editor, I guess, for lack of a better term, whilst also being part owner? Is that something you can answer?
I don't know. I don't know how she negotiated that or didn't. Maybe she didn't tell them, maybe not. Like I paid her out of the advance I got. I didn't include her in the paperwork. So IDW paid both me and Morgan equally. Well, no, not equally. I got an extra 10% from Morgan out of IDW, and then I would pay Heather out of my company because I own LC. And so that's how I would handle all that stuff. And likewise, if we got any residuals that qualified, I would have paid the Haas at that point out of that as well. So
fair enough.
Now,
most
publishers come up with a way. Yeah, and a lot of books do not make money to give you residuals. Like that is the dirty secret. So I really didn't have a lot of residuals. I didn't really have anything to pay Haas with extra, I don't recall. I only paid the owners of the property out of the advances, basically, for that.
Fair.
That was the
Yeah,
only money that we ever saw.
No, that makes sense. I was just going to say conflict of interest is something that just because of where I work, it fascinates me as a concept. So I tend to be
every
more
publisher is
aware of
different.
it, I guess. But yeah.
When I was at Valiant and I approached them about wanting to write comics, they said you could write in-house for us, but we would not allow you to write outside, right? PRH has been incredibly supportive. There are tons of employees at PRH who have creative endeavors outside of the company, and they are very fine about it.
They're like Tony Khan.
They now again, like they don't have ownership of anything that I do to PRH, and they just appreciate that I come to them and give them a heads up. So like IDW is distributed through Penguin Random House. So I went to my boss before any contract was signed, but I went when I was told that IDW was interested and wanted to enter into negotiations. So that was around again like October. I had been at PRH 6 months at that point, maybe 7 months. So I started in April of that year. So I went to them and I was very scared. I was like, oh God, are you about to fire me? Am I going to have to choose between this great new job and this? And my boss was like, look, thank you for telling me. I don't think it'd be a problem. I have to do my diligence, cross my T's, dot my I's, and talk to legal and talk to my boss and so on and so forth. And then came back and gave me the official, stamp of approval and said, congratulations. And they just gave me advisements on, because you work for PRH, there are things you can say, things you can't say, things you can access, things you can't access. For your communications about this project, you have to be respectful of not using a Penguin Random House email account, right? Like if you're talking about it as the creator. So there's a little just classic separation of church and state that are very commonsensical and very reasonable to be a creator there. Because and that was a concern of PW's too, to be perfectly frank. And I understood it from their perspective. They're like, to work with somebody as a creator, but who's also going to be on the back end, of a project that has a different dynamic than they have most times. Now, it's funny because you look at people like there are editors at one company who publish as writers or artists for a different publisher. So it's not an uncommon thing because everybody in comics has a side hustle. They all have a day job for the most part until you reach that certain level. So it's not uncommon to be working one place and putting out products somewhere else. So I think that's a very publishing thing to do. It's very incestuous in that way. So conflict of interest is a little different in publishing, it feels like, than a lot of other industries. Like you can't have that in cybersecurity by nature of how many NDAs and just the nature of what you're doing and the sensitivity of the information, right? So it's really in comics a little bit more forgiving because it's such a small field and it's so acknowledged that you're not going to be able to make a living off the project, but it's a lot harder for somebody to put some restraints on you because and they know they can't pay you enough to make it worth your while to be exclusive in any way, shape, or form.
Fair. It was funny enough. The impetus behind my question that started this show off was because I was tinkering around in the Penguin Random House ordering system and saw crashing there through IDW. I was like, I wonder how that worked out. And this is where we are.
It worked out great.
I mean, it worked out fantastic for you, and this has been a really interesting episode. Like I've really enjoyed this side of things because I like I said, it's one of those things where I've always been curious how this worked, and you're obviously not going to promote yourself on your show because it's your show to talk about other people, so that we will have you on while the jam session is as much yours as it is ours.
It is.
This is very much a case where we can talk to you about what you've done, and it allows you that avenue where you can say, hey, if you're interested in how Crashing came about, listen to this.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, there's this sense of gatekeeping sometimes within publishing because it is so competitive. And I just don't believe in that. I think you should, if you want to get into the side of things, you need to know what it takes, because don't waste your time if this does not sound fun or interesting or worth
Right.
it to
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? Like, lots of people go into the arts not understanding there is a business component to it.
Right.
So if you are, it is better to go in wide-eyed and understanding what it's going to take and how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
And again, I'm the fast version. It could take a year longer for other projects
That's
to
crazy.
get greenlit. Well, because the editorial team have, you know, they may have planned out the next 2 years already.
Right.
So they
They have
your,
scheduling. Yep.
Yeah, they may put your project on the back burner for review, and you may not hear back in 7 months on your pitch.
Yeah.
You know, it's very common in theater, for example. You can wait a year in theater. You can wait a year with a book proposal to hear back from the publisher.
My question to you, though, before Alex went into his question, but it was fine. I also think Alex is trying to publish a comic book, and he's probing you very, very well. But yeah. Also, though, my question was, so you're waiting, you're going through this time. Obviously, the creative wheels are still turning while you're going through this, because this is something you're excited about. So were you writing it while this was all going on, just in case? Because my thing would be, I know how I am creatively. I get a great idea. If I don't expel it out, it morphs into something different and maybe won't be as good when it comes out. So like, I would be writing the whole way through. It just under the thing like, all right, I'm greenlit, but I'm going to keep writing, because otherwise I'll lose my idea. I don't know if that happens for everybody. I was just curious.
I mean, every different. In general, it's a good rule of thumb. If you have not been accepted by a publisher yet, publisher has not said yes to the project, and you have not entered into contracts, do not write it all out if you can help.
Okay.
Here's why. Because when you get to the stage of the publisher, the editorial team, publishing team may come back to you, and you may have an outline for a 6-issue story, and then they come back to you and say, we're going to say yes, but we're going to have the budget for 5 issues.
Yeah.
So if you've written all 6 issues, you now have to either throw the whole thing out, or you are now trapped trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole, and you are chopping it up like crazy. That sucks.
Gotcha.
They may also come back to you and say, we love this idea, and we understand that you've worked for a year on the pitch document and that this is how you have seen it, but we want you to change the ending. We want change this character. We want this character to be a focus. So you'll work for a year on the pitch document and maybe a first script. The first script is even usually, you know, more than a lot of people will do, because until the contract is signed, it may not be what you're pitching. So if you get too attached, right? If you get too attached to it, then you suddenly go into the relationship, maybe feeling like, oh, they don't want my perfect child exactly as I gave birth to.
Antagonistic. Yeah, I got you. That's
feel
a great point.
a little stern. Yeah. Now, what you should be doing is like write down the ideas. You know, write down the ideas for the scenes. Have the idea document there, but be very mindful.
Do like a Bible on the ideas.
Yeah, show Bible. Exactly. It's similar to a show Bible. Yeah, you know, write down the mythology, write down scenes that you're getting ideas for, write down lines that you think characters are going to want to say. Look, I didn't pitch it and it wasn't called Crashing. You know, I pitched it and it was called Triage at that point.
It was called Triage?
Triage was the first one, and then
I actually like that
IDW,
too. Either one works.
Yeah. Triage, we were very happy with. And we discovered there was another comic in the last few years called Triage, and it was a sci-fi medical drama about a nurse. So we said, nope, we got to come out. And then the next working title was called Pain Management. And then we didn't really like that title. IDW
Yeah.
didn't like it either. So then we came up with Crashing, and that was what it settled. So even the title in your head that you're living with for 2-3 years could change in an instant, and that's part of having to allow the project to evolve creatively. So that's my disclaimer, and that is advice I got from Heather right off the bat, because I was like you, Joe. You know, I came from theater, and in theater you write the whole thing out before you even know what you have, right?
Yeah.
You do that level of outlining. So you basically write the whole thing, stream of consciousness a lot of times in theater, and then you read your first draft and you go, oh, here's the story I'm trying to tell. Here's the genre I'm playing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you may not even know. In comics, it's the total opposite. Like screenwriting.
That's
Comics
so
and screenwriting
interesting.
are similar there, where you've got to plot everything out, plan the genre, plan the budget before you go to script. And it is better not to go to script before you have a yes, just because every and anything could change before you get a yes.
Card subject to change. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just like you want to go in open. You want to go in open change. You don't want to go in thinking it's this or nothing. It's this version or no deal at all. You don't want to be resentful of them asking you to make changes that you've been working on for so long, because now you see the whole vision and you love the whole vision as it is. And so
yeah. That makes so much sense. And that is something that I would have never, ever expected for an answer. Because I would figure it would have been better to be like in theater ahead of it and have the whole thing plotted out than to do that. But that makes sense, because you can absolutely get attached to a vision. You can absolutely just ask Seth Rollins. You can get attached to a vision very easily. And like, it's just one of those things that, yeah, you would probably be resentful. I know for me, if like I found it perfect and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, but we want our main character to be this, I'd be like, this sucks. You know what I mean? And then you're trying to make the money, but at the same time, you don't have the spark behind the making the money. You're just doing a job. So I get it.
And
so
editors will feel it. The sales and marketing team will feel it. You know, your co-creators will feel it. So like, so you gotta go. You have to be adaptive in publishing in general. That's the thing. I will also say too, like, you know, you have an outline. Right, you go in, you're being greenlit off of an outline for sure. So you do have an idea of where things are going to go, but it's a lot easier as a creative to change an outline than to change 150 pages of scripts that you write.
It's a skeletal outline. Basically, you can change it.
You are less attached to an outline to 150 pages that you have spent maybe 3, 4, 6 months already working.
Right.
That's a very different level of attachment. And the thing about it is I totally hear you, and I hear that from a lot of creators, and I've certainly dealt with it at times of I've got to get this out. But again, you made an excellent point of why not to do it, because you said you would be concerned it would not be as good if you waited and wrote it later. That is in my opinion, that is a bit of a trap that we creatives sometimes put on ourselves to say, to make ourselves think, oh, it will not be as good the more I work on it.
I think that speaks more to my impulse control problem than it speaks to anything.
Well, for sure. But it's a very natural thing. It's a very pure creative thing. It's a very, and I don't mean this as a slight at all, Joe. So please don't take it.
No.
It is something that creatives who are at the beginning stages of a creative career think like. The more you work on something in environments that require you to adapt and require you to change and require you to do lots of drafts on something, then we start to find ourselves, the creatives, sort of outside of that mindset of realizing no matter what I put out at first, it's not going to be the final form. And then you start learning that it's better. What you put out at first should not be the final form. And it will actually get better. So when we let go of the expectation that your first draft is going to be your best draft, it is creatively the most raw and most, you can argue, pure from a writer's perspective. Like my first draft do not resemble most times anything like the final drafts. And I
Right.
always have deep affection for my first drafts because that was when the idea was completely mine. That was something that
Yeah.
I own creatively. It is the purest form of something that has come out
Yeah.
of me.
Right.
But I freely admit, and it is something that every creative learns the hard way. When you get from draft 1 to draft 7, in the case of
Yeah.
Crashing, I sometimes wrote 7 drafts of a script. But the
Wow.
fewest drafts I ever wrote was 3 drafts, and I think that was issue 4.
Wow.
But I think issue 3 I wrote 7 drafts of that script. It was the hardest one. But from draft 1 to draft 7, it's a completely different animal, and draft 7 is so much better than draft 1, and you have to trust that if you are working with the right creative team and if you can trust in your own abilities, that you are going to make this better with every single draft you do. Like, there is a purity to the
Makes so
first
much
draft.
sense. You're right. Yeah,
But the
purity.
quality is better by
Right.
draft 7. But you've got to get out of your head of shackling yourself to draft 1. That is sometimes the trap that creators get into that don't allow them to get through draft 1. Some people put the pressure, draft 1 is the best thing I'm ever going to make.
Yeah.
And suddenly they get scared of it and they put so much expectation that they
Right.
can't get through it.
That makes so much sense. And this is such a good insight to anyone who is deciding to listen to this. If you are looking to go in creative, these are the things that you're going to have to deal with. I know for myself, I would love and adore to do a comic book someday. But the ideas always change. At this point, like if I was to do a comic book, same thing if I was to do a book. I started kind of writing a book longhand on notebook paper like Mick Foley just recently.
Sure.
It would be a horror book. It would be a horror book, and it's loosely based on current like events that I've gone through. But it would be a horror. Like I've got characters fleshed out. One thing I know I'm very good at is writing dialogue. Very, very good
Same.
at dialogue is very natural to me, and but I think that's because of my love of movies so much is that I'm just a big cinephile. But like setting up scenes and like I need to like read a book on like the construction of writing a book. Because like the intro for a scene and like the certain things like the beats and how not to reuse words and how not to like the biggest thing I struggle with is when you write dialogue, the dialogue sounds great, but it's like he said or he retorted, she retorted. You know what I mean? Like how do you do that without it being so repetitive that it sounds like it's you're reading the same thing over and over again?
As somebody who has written a few manuscripts, I've written I think like a manuscript and a half of books. I totally hear that. It is a very annoying problem. But Joe, here's what I say to you, Joe. That's not draft 1's problem. That's draft 2 or draft 3's problem.
Right.
So don't worry about that.
Go with it.
Do it.
Get the story out and then
just get it out.
Yeah.
The other thing too, Joe, is so what a lot of creators will do if it's their first time is when you hire an editor. Right, you hire somebody that knows more than you and can help you get something into shape. But again, it depends on what your goal is. Like if you're, I write the web comics. This Mason Rhyme series, a third one, Sight Rhyme, is coming out weekly right now, every Tuesday on top.
Cheap plug.
Just put out a 6 by the time.
Say again where it is because you drowned out just enough that they didn't hear you say.
It is Tapas, the web platform. So go check it out every Tuesday. By the time our episode here airs today, I believe part 7 of 10 will be out. So the thing about it is like the web comic I do as an exercise. I don't hire an editor. I don't hire a colorist or because I do it in black and white.
Right.
That is more for me, right? I'm not looking to get that by a publisher. So while I outline and I am practicing for myself, I wouldn't necessarily have to do that. If you are just writing a book that you want to just share as a web novel and you're going to release it a chapter at a time, and a great example of that is Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. That was a web novel. That was just something he was doing for fun. And then
the movie
he
The
was
Martian?
getting so it's based on a novel. But what he did is he published a chapter at a time for free on the internet. And so he wasn't really working with an editor until somebody decided to buy it. And then he had to change some stuff and whip it into shape so that it could be published as a proper book. So Joe, like if your goal is not, oh, I want to make money off of this and I have to get it at a publisher, but if you're looking to self-publish, it's a different
So my
mindset
goal,
of what
being very honest, is a selfish
Sure.
goal. I don't care if I even make $1 off of it. My goal is I want to be published in the Library of Congress.
Oh,
Because
okay.
all books are published in the Library of Congress.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's a way to do
It
that.
is.
Way to do that.
That's what I want.
So-
I just want that. My father wanted that, and he never got it. And like that's something I always want. I want to be able to say that like I'm indelible in history because I'm in that library.
Well, just do some research on it, right? Just look
Yeah.
at qualifications, what it takes, and then you work backwards from there, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
because
kind
it's
of
a
the
happy
thing.
accident if it makes a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's because there's so many horror things out there. Horror is the genre of the year. You know what I mean? Everyone wants horror, but like, it's something from me. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be able to make that accomplishment.
Sure, I think it's a lovely goal, and I love your reasoning behind it. I think it's wonderful, and there's absolutely a path to do it. So
Yeah.
so you've got a clear goal in mind. Work backwards from the goal. You've got an idea.
Tarantino
That's
it?
great. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ways to do it. You could kickstart it. You could crowdfund
Yeah.
it. You can release a chapter at a time to build a little bit of a brand, and publishers, editors now are scouring stuff
That's a good
out
idea.
there
Yeah.
based on your follower count. Like, how big of
Right.
a brand do you already have? What audience do you bring to the table? Like, I will be perfectly, and I've said this on Comics for You. Comics for You is in part I'm building my brand as a creator.
Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to create fans. Like, I'm also having a blast, and I hope I'm doing something interesting and fun for listeners, and they're learning something about the industry and these creators. But
I've got to go
there is
back through your
always
book
a little
catalog and
selfishness.
watch all of them. But I've listened to 2 of them so far, but I got to go back and listen to all the rest of them.
So the audio gets so much better as you go forward. But I learned things along the way. But that's the goal.
That's what we did, right? Like, if you listen to
Yeah.
the very first episodes that
Oh,
we put out,
man.
they were shit.
Oh,
But I mean,
and
Alex,
shit is
Alex,
being
for example-
kind, Alex. Shit is being very kind.
Well, Alex, like one lesson I've learned is right now off camera, I am recording my own separate audio track that I make available to you. So if you need to, if I drop out at any time and you need to like plug something in, you have clean audio for me that you can do it, right? So like
Perfect.
things you learn as you do it, but it's
so
the
cool.
same with writing. The more you do it, the more projects you work on, the more you learn about what it takes, how it takes, and what your goals are.
Right.
Some people are going to publish through Image. They're going to be totally 100% creator owned. Some of that is they want to retain all media rights. Like, they have an entertainment lawyer, they have an agent. They need somebody to make the book, but they are more than happy to negotiate for an option outside of it, and they don't want to give a piece of that away to another publisher. Some people can't get a publisher, so they're going to do it that way. Some people say, you know what, I don't want to go through a publisher. I want to save all the money from it and do it myself, so I'll go to crowdfunding. Right? Crowdfunding is a great place. If you want to keep more money per copy, you crowdfund it. You go to Zoop, you go to Kickstarter. That is how you do it, because when you go to a publisher, inevitably you are making less per copy.
Oh yeah.
But the theory is you might be able to sell enough copies that it makes up the difference there, right? And you don't have to do everything yourself. Some people like doing everything themselves, though. They want to be in control. So there's a million ways to skin this cat, so to speak. And it's all a matter of what are your goals? What are your resources? Because when you are doing a crowdfunding campaign, you have to pay the creators, you have to pay your team to do it. Some people can afford to pay up front. Some people afford to pay half up front. Some people pay, for whatever work is done and nothing more. Some people are paying out of the Kickstarter and saying, okay, I'm giving you a page rate plus a percentage of net profits from the Kickstarter is what you have to do. And then there's some times where some writers can't afford to pay the artist at all, and it's purely on spec, and you're saying, do these 6 pages, but I'm giving you 60% ownership. I'll give you more ownership than I'll have, because without the art as a writer, you got nothing to pitch sometimes. Yep. So, and an artist may say yes to that, and they'll say, yes, but my schedule is dependent on me bringing in paid jobs. So I'll do this for you, but it's going to take a year to get 6 pages done, because I have the next 7 months of my life planned out.
Right.
And that's okay. You just have to go in with those expectations and with that understanding, and everything has to be in writing. Cannot say this enough, creators out there. You have to put all of this in writing. It does not matter how altruistic and noble and how much you trust each other. You have to get everything in writing, because you just can't plan for what you can't plan for. And on the 1 in 292.1 million chance this becomes a super successful thing, you have to be prepared. Look, I love my partner. We've been together 17 years. If we were to get formally legally bound to each other as a married couple, I am etching in stone on a prenup. And that has nothing to do with how much we're committed to each other. It's just good sense. So everything you do before anybody does any work on this project together, before the artist is going to do character designs, before any of that, what are you offering, and get it agreed to in email at the very least, if not on paper with a signature. You have to do it. It is not part anybody has fun with. It is not what we get into the creative arts to do, but you must protect yourself and your idea, and they have the right to protect themselves. Like, you've got to guarantee that you pay them, right? They need to have that security. That is the number one mistake people make, is they don't get stuff in writing at the start.
Folks, that's actually great advice, not just for the creative side of things, but also if you work an office job and you need to eventually cover your ass, having the email chain is
always
fantastic.
The email chain. Yep.
It always save these things. Always.
CYA. It's a very corporate term. You have to CYA.
Absolutely.
Penguin Random House drills it into me. Like, no matter what you say on a phone call to somebody, you then follow it up with an email recapping that call, and you say to them, if I've missed anything to add, or anything does not match, please let me know. And if they do not let you know legally, they have tacitly agreed. So that is what you do.
The amount of times I've sent minutes out saying, if I've missed or misunderstood anything, let me know. And no one does. And then it turns out I had actually misunderstood something, but it worked in my favor, and no one disagreed with me. I'm like, I'm
there you
good.
go.
That's on
this
them.
worked out for me. Yep.
Absolutely.
That is on them. It's it happens in every industry, no matter what job you're in. Always write it down. In the creative arts, get it signed. You have to get signed. That is the bottom line. Again, no one likes to do it. It's not what we're in it for. We are all, special, unicorns with bubblegum breath out there. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I know, and you hear the horror stories of so many people that did not have it in writing, and then they can't sue when they get screwed over because somebody steals the idea and goes to somewhere else, or somebody starts demanding more money, or somebody starts disputing, the media rights because no one ever wrote it down before they made the project. You have to do it before you start making the project. Period.
So, Alex, your tagline for this show should be FYI, JAM says CYA.
You know what? That's actually a good a good key message to end on.
This was
Yeah.
amazing, and this was so good to come back to. Honestly,
this is one of I've really enjoyed learning this side of things. And I'm sure there's more. It's a surface scratcher as well.
Oh yeah.
Matthew, you've already talked about where you can find the rhyme scheme on Tapas. You're also at Matthew Klein 316 and Mac the Knife 1116. I don't know which of the socials you're still on anymore.
So I'm the bottom line on Bluesky and TikTok, and then Mac the Knife is my Instagram.
There we go.
Nice.
All right, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Take care,
thank you so much for having me on. And also, if you want to hear more about this, dear listeners, please check out Comics for You.
Absolutely.
It's available wherever podcasts are available. I would not have done and embarked on this project this year without Alex and Joe and being part of these jam sessions, which really got the bug in my bonnet and made me feel like I could do this and inspired me. And Alex, you were such a wonderful resource helping me get set up.
Yes, he's incredible.
So new episodes are out weekly. I believe when this comes out, we'll have just dropped our latest episode with Christian Ward, who's a writer who's working on the Event Horizon Dark Descent comic that we talked about.
Nice.
Upcoming, the next one will be Tristan Jones, who's the artwork for there. And then we've also got Christopher Cantwell, Skylar Patridge of Action Comics, Ibrahim Mustafa, and several more in the and ready to go to the rest of the fall. So join me over there as well at some point.
Awesome.
You ruined my awkward ending because you had a really well planned out recap, and now I don't know how to awkwardly end it again. So
yeah,
have an awkward.
Just did it.
Yeah,
it's all done. There it is.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.